Section 4 at a glance, drugs and consciousness. Depressants slow down the nervous system, stimulants increase the activity of the nervous system, and hallucinogens produce hallucinations. Treatments for drug abuse include detoxification, maintenance programs, counseling, and support groups. Main idea: depressants, stimulants, and hallucinogens are all drugs that can affect consciousness. Drug abuse can be dealt with by a number of available treatments. And your reading focus: how do depressants affect the body? What are stimulants? What are hallucinogens? And how do some treatments for drug abuse work? Depressants. Many drugs are addictive. Addiction to a drug means that after the person takes a drug for a while, the body craves it just to feel normal. Depressants are drugs that slow the activity of the nervous system. Let's take a look at alcohol. It's the most widely used drug in the United States. It's a depressant. It causes intoxication or drunkenness, and regular consumption can lead to addiction. It's the most serious drug problem in the United States. Nearly 80% of all high school seniors have consumed alcohol at some point in life. Nearly 5% of graduating seniors drink alcohol daily. Alcohol slows down inhibitions and impairs judgment. Perceptions, sensations become distorted. Behavior becomes obnoxious, and it can lead to unconsciousness and even coma or death. Alcohol can produce physiological and psychological dependence, and itself may develop from both genetic and environmental factors. The person's risk of becoming an alcoholic is 3 to 4 times greater if a member of the family is an alcoholic. Second is narcotics, and narcotics are addictive depressants used to relieve pain and induce sleep. Many are derived from the opium poppy plant, and they include morphine and heroin. And then there's a link there to show you a map of the opioid epidemic that's going on in the United States. I'm going to talk a little bit about numbers of opiate abuse. I pulled these from the American Society of Addiction Medicine. Drug overdose is the leading cause of accidental death in the United States, with 47,055 lethal drug overdoses in 2014, and that was the year with the most recent data. Opioid addiction is driving this epidemic, with 18,893 overdose deaths related to prescription pain relievers and 10,574 overdose deaths related to heroin in 2014. 4 in 5 new heroin users started out misusing prescription painkillers. From the National Institute of Drug Abuse, prescription opioid pain medications such as OxyContin and Vicodin can have effects similar to heroin when taken in doses or in ways other than prescribed, and they are currently among the most commonly abused drugs in the United States. Research now suggests that abuse of these drugs may open the door to heroin abuse. Nearly half of young people who inject heroin, surveyed in 3 recent studies, reported abusing prescription opioids before starting to use heroin. Some individuals reported taking up heroin because it's cheaper and easier to obtain than prescription opioids. And more communities are keeping naloxone on hand to reverse the heroin overdoses. What are narcotics? They are addictive depressants that can be used to relieve pain and induce sleep. Stimulants increase the activity of the nervous system. They include nicotine, amphetamines, methamphetamines, and cocaine. Nicotine is one of the most common stimulants. It spurs release of adrenaline, and regular use can lead to addiction. It's found in tobacco, and cigarette smoking is as addictive as heroin. Amphetamines are stimulants often used for staying awake or reducing appetite. They can cause hallucinations, perceptions that seem to be real but are not, and delusions, which are false ideas that seem real. One extremely addictive form is methamphetamine. Cocaine is a stimulant derived from the leaves of the coca plant. It raises blood pressure, increases heart rate, and decreases supply of oxygen. Use of cocaine can sometimes cause death, and one very harmful form is known as crack. And here is a graph of major drug types and their effects. What are 3 types of stimulants? Nicotine, amphetamines, and cocaine. Next we'll do hallucinogens. I say it wrong every single time. A hallucinogen is a drug that produces hallucinations. Probably the most well-known one is marijuana. It's produced in the leaves of the cannabis sativa plant. It may produce feelings of relaxation and mild hallucination. It impairs perception, coordination, memory, and learning, and can have serious effects on consciousness. The second one is LSD. It can produce intense hallucinations. It's sometimes called acid. It can cause injury or suicide, and the side effects include memory loss, violent outbursts, nightmares, and panic. Now, depending when you watch this video of notes, you may or may not have seen the LSD video in class, The Housewife on LSD. Keep that in mind. Other hallucinogens. Mushrooms that contain psilocybin, which produces altered perceptions, confusion, anxiety, and panic. Peyote, which contains mescaline. And ecstasy, a pill that produces hallucinations, increased energy, loss of judgment, and serious side effects including nausea and high blood pressure. And another chart for you on selected psychoactive drugs. What are LSD's effects? Intense hallucinations as well as panic and confusion. Side effects include memory loss, violent outbursts, and nightmares. Treatments for drug abuse. It varies depending on the drug. One treatment is detoxification, where harmful substances are removed from the body, most commonly used with alcohol and narcotic addiction. Other treatments include maintenance programs, counseling, and support groups. Drug addiction is one of the most major psychological problems in America. Millions of Americans depend heavily on drugs. They hurt themselves physically, socially, and psychologically. Abuse of drugs involves psychological dependence. Users come to depend so much on the feeling of well-being that they get from the drug, they feel compelled to continue using it. And people can become psychologically dependent on a wide variety of drugs, like alcohol, caffeine, nicotine, cocaine, marijuana, amphetamines, and the list goes on. What is the process of detoxification? Harmful substances are removed from the body and the addict is weaned from the drug. Types of drug treatment. There's detoxification, maintenance programs, counseling, and support groups. And that is it for Section 4, Drugs and Consciousness.